I was having y'all, your boy Rico from Street Scores, and I felt like it was a good time to break down the 7 biggest Washington Commanders training camp storylines to look forward to in this upcoming training camp, the 2022 training camp. Everything starts July 26th. Our rookies report July 26th, and our training camp officially starts July 26th. And even though I like a lot of the potential on our team as far as roster goes and even coaching wise a little bit, we still have a lot of questions. We still have a lot of storylines. Injuries, rookies, turnover rate at certain positions. So of course we got to dive into all of that. But before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, be on the lookout for film sessions. Definitely working on those, trying to bust out the rest of this rookie class along with some undrafted free agents. I've only done a couple, so I'm really about to get on it. And be on the lookout for just more content in general. I'm about to be super on all of that. About to do some live streams and everything. And without further ado, let's get it. All right, so I think number one got to be player health. I mean, these are in no particular order, but I think we need to go ahead and get this one out the way. Because Chase Young, Logan Thomas, Chase Roullier, the guys who had long-term injuries last year, when will they be available this year? Remember, Logan Thomas and Chase Young basically had a similar injury, but they went different routes with their recovery process. Logan Thomas got a surgery to where he'll be back sooner, but Chase Young got the type of surgery to where it would take him longer to be back, but he should be way less injury prone. It was technically like a better surgery. He went a route that would increase his chances of that never happening again. I mean, he basically has a better leg than he had before the injury type of thing. And of course, Chase Roullier, our starting center, I mean, we're not exactly sure when he'll be back. Will he be? The whole thing is, will any of these guys be ready by week 1? And then you also have Curtis Samuel on top of that. I mean, what's really going on with Curtis Samuel? They're saying it's an abundance of caution every time that he missed practice. He missed like 5 days of practices between OTAs and mini camps, and that's quite a bit. But again, they're saying it's an abundance of caution. And yeah, I mean, Rivera and company have earned the benefit of the doubt when it comes to certain things, especially when it comes to getting long-term deals done with players that we really want to get them done with, like Jonathan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, Chase Roullier, just to name a few. But when it comes to Curtis Samuel specifically, I don't know, man. I mean, because they were playing us the whole way last year. Just kept saying, oh, he'll be back soon. It's not that bad. He's good. You'll see soon enough type of stuff. And it just kept going and going and going to the point that he just pretty much almost never played. He played like a very small amount. He got the ball a couple of times, but that was not the Curtis Samuel we hoped we'd get. And it all started from like May, and we still didn't know through October whether or not he was really healthy. So I don't know. I don't really believe anything they say as far as Curtis Samuel goes. You're just gonna have to show me. I'm gonna have to see him out there balling consistently. I don't want to see him out there flashing and then he misses a couple of practices or misses a couple of games, most importantly, and you know, just on and off the injury report and things like that. So we got to see, man. And as far as just replacing those guys, if they will not be available, I mean, as long as we have Montez Sweat and the rest of the D line, I think we'll be fine until Chase Young gets back, especially since the early part of our schedule is fairly easy, even though technically nothing's easy in the NFL. I'm pretty sure the Jaguars and the Lions are looking at us on their schedules like, oh yeah, we get them early, that's good. So I mean, even though those do seem like easy opponents, that's the same way other teams are looking at us. But at the end of the day, definitely prefer to play the Jaguars and the Lions without those names I just listed over like the Eagles and the Cowboys and a lot of those other opponents on our schedule. But Chase Roullier, who steps up for him? You have Wes Schweitzer. I'm comfortable with him starting at center, even though I prefer him as a backup because he's just so versatile. He can step in a left guard, center, or right guard. But him starting at center, I'm perfectly fine with that. Prefer Chase Roullier, but Wes Schweitzer is just fine. Logan Thomas, we're going to talk about the tight end group later. And Curtis Samuel, I mean, this is arguably one of the deepest wide receiver rooms Washington has had in a long time. I feel like even if Curtis Samuel isn't healthy, I think Jahan Dotson will be ready to step up. I mean, you have so many hungry receivers on this team ready to go. I mean, you got Cam Sims that whenever we throw him the ball, he makes plays. We just don't throw him the ball often. De'Ami Brown is ready to finally emerge as a true receiving threat in his second year. Market Michelle is making plays. Who knows if he'll make the team or not. Dax Milne, we'll see where he develops. Kelvin Harmon, I'm still a big Kelvin Harmon fan, and I hope he makes the team, but we'll see. And y'all also know I'm rooting for Jaquez Ezzard, but that's for bias reasons. But either way, I mean, Terry McLaurin back and Jahan Dotson as a duo alone, I think is going to be very electric. And again, you prefer to have Curtis Samuel, but I think we'd be just fine again, especially in those first couple of games. So at the end of the day, I mean, worst case scenario, if Logan Thomas, Chase Young, Chase Roullier, and Curtis Samuel can't play week 1, I still think we'd be fine, but of course you prefer to have those guys. And out of all of those guys who will be back the soonest, I think Curtis Samuel, I mean, we're not gonna count him because supposedly he's healthy and he's good to go. But out of Logan Thomas, Chase Roullier, and Chase Young, I think Chase Young is the guy that's going to be out the longest, that's least likely to play week 1. And I would say Chase Roullier is probably the most likely to start week 1, but we'll see, man. Who knows what can happen. Then number 2, Carson Wentz's comfort in the offense, man. Learning the playbook, gaining chemistry with not only Scott Turner as far as play calling goes, and Scott Turner knowing his weaknesses and strengths and knowing what to call and when to call it, and them having trust with each other to where you allow maybe Carson Wentz to audible out of some plays where a defense gives a certain look, and Carson Wentz has the power and the trust from Scott Turner to call a different play in order to beat that certain defensive play call and coverage scheme and things like that. And then also, most importantly, chemistry with the receivers and the tight ends. Remember, as of so far, Carson Wentz has never thrown a pass to Terry McLaurin. Once he does, that's the best receiver he's ever thrown the ball to in his career, in my opinion. But then you also have Jahan Dotson out here balling. They still got to keep that chemistry going because Carson Wentz, this is his first year here, and this is Jahan Dotson's first year in the NFL. So even though they look good in mandatory minicamps and OTAs, I got to see it in the regular season. So they need to keep working on that throughout training camp and preseason so we can make sure that we have that refined to the point that Carson Wentz knows where Jahan Dotson is without even looking at him, and is able to throw the ball where it needs to be and when it needs to be there and all of that type of stuff. Catch Jahan Dotson in stride, throw it to the perfect spot where he wants it to where he can be able to get the most yards after catch off of it. Like little things like that. Choice route chemistry, knowing the coverage is like this, so Carson Wentz would want me to run this route like this. They got to work on all of that nuanced stuff that teams with stability at quarterback and receiver, where they've been able to work on things like that for the past 2+ years, they're already beyond that point and they're working on other stuff. We're still technically like on step 1/2, so they definitely need to work on that. I mean, Carson Wentz, with Curtis Samuel missing so much practice, he still has to work on his chemistry with Curtis Samuel, all of that type of stuff. So I mean, Carson Wentz is further ahead in his comfortability in this offense than I thought he would be at this point, because they're already working on like 2-minute drill things. They're already working on situational football, and you normally don't work on that stuff as early as mandatory minicamp. You wait until the quarterback really knows the playbook to do that stuff. And so if they're doing that stuff, does that signal that he does have the playbook down and now they're able to work on situational football things and throw all kinds of stuff at him? Either way, that does leave room for optimism, but at the same time, like I said, there's still so many things they need to work on. Again, he's never thrown a pass to Terry McLaurin, and I gotta see that done. We gotta see that chemistry kick right off, and they need to build on that immediately because we're gonna need it week 1 for sure. Number 3, I have a lot of secondary question marks. I know some people out there still feel like linebacker is our biggest question mark, but to me, I honestly do think it's secondary right now. I mean, William Jackson, granted the second half of last year started to basically shut down a third of the field, but you can honestly give some of that credit to Jack Del Rio simplifying things, because in the first half of the season, we would try and match coverage. And for those of y'all who may not know, I'm not going to completely break down what match coverage is right now, but just basically know it has the highest ceiling and the lowest floor. If you're really good at match coverage, you're going to have the best coverage in the NFL, or one of the best. But when you're bad at it, you're going to have some of the worst coverage in the NFL. There's no middle. And so we were trying that. William Jackson, who's basically never done that in his career before in Cincinnati, tried it here. It wasn't working out for him. He just prefers to just straight up press man a guy without having to think too much. And so the second half of the season, Jack Del Rio pretty much simplified it and stopped doing as much match coverage. And I mean, that was a mix of two things. That was a mix of William Jackson just getting more comfortable in this defense, and again, Jack Del Rio simplifying the coverage responsibility. So we'll see if we end up going back to match coverage, because if they can handle it, again, you potentially have an elite secondary because that's just an elite coverage scheme right there. Only the best of the best are able to pull it off, and when you can, you literally have a no-fly zone. So first of all, we got to see if we'll even try match coverage again under Jack Del Rio. I want to at least try it, but if it's not working, go ahead and stop doing it. I mean, if you see some progress and there's some growing pains, we can stick it out. But if it looks terrible, just go ahead and give up on the match coverage. We're just gonna have to simplify things. But again, I'd prefer if we can get that match coverage down, because again, that's the highest ceiling coverage you can have. But back to William Jackson, I mean, whether we do that or not, we'll see if he looks more like the second half of last year or more like the first half going into this season. We still got to see if Kendall Fuller can handle playing outside, because he was kind of on and off. He had great moments, he had bad moments, and I mean, even though the stats say he played well in the slot last year, I particularly didn't love it. And so then you have Benjamin St-Juste, who looks like our starting slot corner, which basically takes the spot of our starting Buffalo nickel. And we got to see if he can handle run game responsibilities. Can he bang with the defensive line? Can he make plays in the run game? If he can, he's technically our starting Buffalo nickel, because he's our best coverage option there out of any potential player, even including Landon Collins. But the reason Landon Collins is so valuable and why I feel like we should bring him back for cheap is his ability to make plays in the trenches against the run and all of that type of stuff, and only have to cover when he has to. But again, Benjamin St-Juste is your higher ceiling, because his coverage right now, I mean, so far in the offseason workouts, he's been our best corner. He's been the only one that's even been able to give Jahan Dotson a little bit of problems. Jahan Dotson's been smoking everybody else, especially Kendall Fuller, from what I've seen. I mean, like literally 3 steps ahead of him on routes. And I mean, that's a combination of Jahan Dotson is balling, and also we do probably need to worry about Kendall Fuller a little bit. We'll see though. I hope he pulls it together. But back to Benjamin St-Juste, if he can start in the slot to the point that he can actually play well against the run, that's technically our starting Buffalo nickel right there. So I mean, that's a secondary question. And then safety wise, we know Cameron Curl is a dominant, strong safety. I can't wait for the rest of the league to truly see how productive and talented this man is. I mean, he's out here balling and not getting anywhere near enough credit that he deserves. And then free safety, what's going on? Is Bobby McCain going to start again? Another guy to look better in the second half of the season. I wouldn't say it was as much of an improvement as Landon Collins or William Jackson going from the first half of last season to the second half of last season, but it was slightly better. He went from being like, what are you doing, to, okay, I mean, you're decent, you're straight, but he was never really like great to me. And so I like Bobby McCain's depth, but as a starter, I'm not too sure. We'll see though. And then that's where Percy Butler comes in. Love Percy Butler's talent, but so far, as expected, after we first drafted him, he's going to shine, but he's going to be inconsistent. Can he become consistent enough to where he can actually start and take away snaps from a Bobby McCain? Because he's definitely a higher ceiling Bobby McCain. I mean, he kind of has some Daxton Hill in him, kind of has some Marcus Williams in him. We just got to see him pull it all together and be consistent. A lot of it is mental. It's nothing physical. So we got to see. And then also you got to remember, Bobby McCain, you could argue, is better in the slot than free safety. So again, if Percy Butler can step up, that would be huge, because you can just mix and match coverages all over the place. Offense is thinking that Bobby McCain is a free safety this play. Next thing you know, he's running down to make a play in the slot, and somebody else is going to free safety. Now the quarterback's confused, and he's either going to hold the ball out of confusion, and it's going to basically be a coverage sack, or he's going to make a mistake and try to force it somewhere, thinking that he does know what's going on, and that could end up being an interception. So with our secondary being so versatile, you know, we have a lot of potential there, but we got to see them do their first job well first. I mean, Kendall Fuller can technically play slot corner, he can play outside corner, he can play for some free safety. William Jackson's probably the only guy that's just like a pure one position. He's just pure outside corner. Bobby McCain, free safety, slot corner. Derek Forrest is all over the place. Cameron Curl can be all over the place if you need him to. He can step up in the slot, strong safety, make plays in the box. Again, Percy Butler, free safety, Buffalo nickel, whatever, slot corner, outside corner. And yeah, all of that versatility is nice. All of that positional flex sounds great. But if you can't do your first job very well, what does it matter? So I have a lot of questions for the secondary. We'll see. Honestly, to me, that's the position group with the most questions, even more than linebacker. But we're going to talk about linebacker a little later. Number 4, which rookies are ready to start, or at the very least contribute in a big way week 1, because somebody like Percy Butler may not technically start week 1, but what if he plays like 53% of the snaps or more and he's out there making plays? So that's what I mean by contribute in a big way week 1. Now granted, we're hoping that all of these rookies are able to contribute at some point in their careers, and especially some point in this 2022 season. My question is, which rookies are ready to step up and be those guys week 1? Again, even if they don't technically start, who's ready to actually contribute in a big way and make plays for us on both offense and defense, and maybe even special teams? So of course you have Jahan Dotson, who's our first round pick. I expect him to go out there and not be wide receiver 1, but I mean, as good as he's looked in offseason workouts so far, maybe Terry McLaurin's 1A and Jahan Dotson's 1B more so than Terry McLaurin being 1 and Jahan Dotson being 2. And even if Jahan Dotson isn't a 1B, if he's a 2, that's still way better than what we've had since Terry McLaurin's been here, because last year JD McKissic was like our second leading receiver as a running back, and he only had like 300 and something yards. It'd be different, you say, okay, our running back was our second leading receiver, and he at least had like 700 yards. No, he had 300. It was Terry McLaurin with over 1,000, and then the next guy only had 300, and he was a running back. That's ridiculous. So if Jahan Dotson can go out there, give me 700, 800, I'm super excited about that. But if he goes out there and it's Terry McLaurin with 1,200 and Jahan Dotson with like a slightly over 1,000, a 1A, 1B, that's perfect. But most notably, I'm worried about week 1 right now as far as going into training camp, and I think Jahan Dotson will contribute early on week 1. I can see him having like 4 catches, 60 yards or something like that. I can definitely see that, and I think that would be a great start to his career. Then round 2, Phidarian Mathis, I think he's going to contribute in a big way as well. Granted, Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen are both still here as the starters, but I feel like he will play more than a Matt Ioannidis or a Tim Settle. I think he's going to be heavy into the rotation, most notably because we brought him here to be that unselfish guy. Now, I love Matt Ioannidis and I love Tim Settle, but Matt Ioannidis especially was more selfish, going more so for the explosive plays, trying to make a play, not necessarily filling in his gap responsibilities the right way consistently. He was more so kind of out for himself. I mean, I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but if you just look at the film, he was really out there trying to make a play rather than what Phidarian Mathis is going to do. He's going to eat up double teams. He's going to be in the way, clog up run lanes, and allow everybody else to make plays. So Montez Sweat, Chase Young, and all of those other guys are going to be able to eat more, and their stats are going to be better just because of Phidarian Mathis is on the field. And I mean, you also got to remember, I keep saying this, but Matt Ioannidis was a 5th round pick. Tim Settle was a 5th round pick. So I'm expecting a lot more out of a 2nd round pick in Phidarian Mathis, but most notably, not even just because of the rounds they were picked, also their play style. Again, Phidarian Mathis is going to be the unselfish guy. Now, granted, he's shown in offseason workouts so far that he can penetrate and make explosive plays, but he's mostly here to be unselfish, to do exactly what he's asked to do, to be disciplined, refined, and allow everybody else to make plays around him. And overall, that will make our defensive line way better than what it was last year, where everybody was just basically teaming me and on solo missions. Phidarian Mathis is going to pretty much be that center core that allows everybody else to shine. So I'm excited about him. Brian Robinson, I think he's going to contribute quite a bit very early on. I think him and Antonio Gibson are going to be a 1A, 1B. I think he's going to get quite a bit of carries even as early as week 1. I think JD McKissic is still going to be a big part of the offense, but more so on third downs and in the passing game. I definitely think we'll see less JD McKissic run plays, especially in between the tackles. That's going to be Brian Robinson's job. I also think Brian Robinson is going to take away carries from Antonio Gibson on 3rd and short, 4th and short. Even though Antonio Gibson, I feel like he receives a little bit too much hate when it comes to the short yardage down plays, but I can already see Phidarian Mathis taking over for quite a bit of that. Not all of it, but some of it for sure, even as soon as week 1. Then Percy Butler, like I said earlier, we got to see. Who knows? He's going to flash. He's going to have his flash. He's going to make the best play on defense. He's also going to make the worst play on defense as where he stands right now. But hopefully he can get to a point that he's able to ball out. And then Sam Howell, of course, I'm not expecting much from him anytime soon, not even within this next year or two. But Cole Turner as a tight end, especially with Logan Thomas hurt, and John Bates, I mean, technically he's our tight end 1 with Logan Thomas out, and he's a decent receiving threat. He has great hands, but he's not a guy that can get open deep down the field and separate on his own. But he is arguably one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL already. But Cole Turner, that's where he steps in. He's special. He has that receiving capability. He's a guy that can get open down the middle of the field, open in the seams. Remember, through history, Carson Wentz has loved his bigger targets. Now, granted, he hasn't had small targets as good as Terry McLaurin and even really Jahan Dotson so far in his career. So we'll see. I mean, I guess you could say Deshaun Jackson as a deep field threat. So we'll see how that goes. But history shows he loves his big targets with the crazy catch radiuses. And that is exactly Cole Turner. And again, he has some athleticism enough to where he can actually get open deep down the field on his own. So I'm expecting him to contribute early on. I'm not expecting him to get a bunch of catches, but I'm expecting him to get a couple of red zone looks week 1 against the Jaguars, again, especially with Logan Thomas out. And then Chris Paul and Christian Holmes, I can see them making the team, but I don't see them contributing much week 1. If Chris Paul is on the field week 1, we have a problem. If Christian Holmes is on the field week 1, we also have a problem, unless we're doing some crazy nickel quarters package or something, dime something. But Chris Paul especially, if he's on the field week 1, there's been like 3 or 4 injuries. And I mean, that's not to downplay him. I actually like Chris Paul, like his potential. I like what I've seen from him so far in offseason workouts. But if he's on the field, that means there's been a lot of injuries. Number 5, is this offensive line going to pick up right where they left off last year? Remember, there's a lot of turnover there, just like the quarterback position that we've had for the past few years. This offensive line has had a pretty high turnover rate. I mean, as soon as things start to look really good and we gain some chemistry, new guys come in, or usually injuries. But this time, like, it's officially, we've just changed everything. I mean, the only guys coming back right now that start in week 1 technically are Charles Leno at left tackle and Samuel Cosmi at right tackle, because again, Chase Roullier is hurt at center. And then you have Andrew Norwell replacing Eric Flowers as your starting left guard, and Trey Turner as your starting right guard in place of Brandon Sheriff. So we'll see if this offensive line can keep us on the same track that we've been on. Now, granted, we have arguably the best offensive lines coach in the NFL, because he's been making something out of nothing for so long. I mean, we've had one of the most hurt offensive lines in the NFL the past couple of years, and yet they've still been top 5, at the very least top 10, according to a lot of advanced statistic metrics and things like that. So if he can get that out of this group again, great. This group has a lot of talent. Don't sleep on Andrew Norwell and Trey Turner's talent, but the last time we saw each of those guys on their different teams, they didn't look too good. But if we can go in a time machine, and it's not even that far back, it's not even like we're talking 2012, we can just get them back to what they were looking like 2017, 2018, we could potentially have a top 5 offensive line once again, especially under the coaching of John Moscow. I mean, he's been coaching his tail off. Arguably the best coach we have on the team, I'm not gonna lie, man. And then, I mean, we had pretty decent depth. Like, I liked what I saw from Sadiq Charles late last season. Again, when Chase Roullier is healthy, Wes Schweitzer is a backup swing interior offensive lineman, can start at left guard, center, or right guard. That's insane depth. You could argue Wes Schweitzer is one of the best backup interior offensive linemen in the entire NFL. And I like Cornelius Lucas as a backup swing tackle as well. That's great depth. And then, of course, again, the potential of Chris Paul. Tyler Larson is a pretty decent backup center. So, man, we'll see, man. I'm pretty excited about this group. I think they have the potential, but I'm more so banking on the fact that we have John Moscow as our offensive lines coach. But the talent is also there. It's not like we're devoid of talent. Right now, we're only devoid of chemistry. And once they get that down, I think our offensive line has the potential to be top 5, top 10 once again, especially if everybody can stay healthy. Now, next, who's going to be the punt and kick returner? I think this is a really interesting question here. I mean, this could save games. Remember, we lost DeAndre Carter to, I believe, the Chargers for a very cheap deal. I mean, I thought we should have signed him to even more money than that just to bring him back, just to know for a fact that you have a certified baller as a return man. And he was technically our wide receiver 2 for like 3 weeks in a row. I mean, he wasn't a great receiver, but our receiving core was just so bad last year that DeAndre Carter was wide receiver 2, and that just goes to show that he's at least not incompetent at being a receiver. So I just felt like at the end of the day, we definitely should have kept him, but maybe, you know, with him getting up there in age, maybe they felt like it was time to move on. I don't know, but that, I mean, that return he had against the Falcons, I'm not sure if anybody on our roster can do that. But as of right now, so far through practices, they've had Jahan Dotson, they've had Dax Milne, they've had Alex Erickson, who they literally brought in to basically just be a pure returner. They don't expect him really to contribute much on offense as a receiver anyway. anyway, you have Kyrie McGowan, you have my boy Jaquez Ezzard, and notably no Jared Patterson so far this offseason. So I guess that whole experiment is done, even though I liked what I saw from him in the preseason, but we'll see. But yeah, right now those are our guys that are practicing punt returns and kick returns for us. So we'll see who ends up being the guy that gets the nod. I doubt it's going to be Jahan Dotson. I think he's going to be too vital to our offense as a receiver for them to even risk him being out there. I mean, it'd be different maybe if he was like Tyreek Hill or Deshaun Jackson fast, and he's fast, but he's not that fast, and they definitely don't want to chance him getting hit that much. And then Dax Milne is a safe option. Alec Erickson is like our closest thing to having like an explosive DeAndre Carter type option, but again, he's somebody that you don't expect to contribute on offense as a receiver at all. And so he'll literally just be taking up an entire roster spot with how limited the spaces are with 53 people just being a straight returner. And unless he's Devin Hester, I don't know. I'm a little uncomfortable using an entire roster spot, a singular spot, just for a guy that all he does is return, unless he's like Devin Hester, or at the very least DeAndre Carter. If Alec Erickson can go out there and be DeAndre Carter, then I'm cool with it, but we'll see. And then again, you have Kyrie McGowan and Jaquez Ezzard as undrafted free agents that are attempting to make the team as a returner, and maybe they can contribute on offense as a receiver. And I mean, Mark and Michelle has been balling in offseason workouts so far. I'm surprised that he's not trying to see if he can return as well, because that would only increase his chances of making the team, or at the very least the practice squad. And then linebackers, my seventh and final point, and I made it the final point on purpose because I don't think it's as serious as a lot of people are making it to be. I mean, I know there's the argument, well, we ran 2 linebackers most of the time last year out of necessity, because if we ever ran 3 out there, that wasn't our best combination of 11 guys on the field at any point in time. We didn't have 3 linebackers good enough to warrant us having 3 linebackers out there. But I think honestly it's more so the case that we just genuinely don't want to run 3 linebackers often. I mean, even in practices so far, we rarely have had 3 linebackers on the field. They really like the idea of Benjamin St-Juste, or like a, hopefully Landon Collins, we bring him back, or Derek Forrest has basically been taking that spot so far. Percy Butler, they like those guys to help with coverage responsibilities in that role rather than a third linebacker as of right now. Right now, I think Jamin Davis is your starting outside linebacker. Cole Holcomb technically is your starting Mike/outside linebacker, and those are your guys, and you work from there. And then there's already been a report from John Com, a very trustworthy source, that if Anthony Barr is still available in August, we will go sign him. And again, like I've already spoken about, I think they're waiting until August to see if guys like Khalid Hudson, Jamin Davis, Derek Forrest, Milo Eifler, Deshaun Harris, Drew White, Trey Walker, any of these guys can step up and actually be a strong contributor in the linebacker core. I think they want to give them an honest shot. They're going to give them all the way through August, and if by August they don't show enough, then they'll go and get an Anthony Barr. So again, I'm not really worried about it because they have a contingency plan in place if Anthony Barr doesn't get signed by somebody else by then. But also, I mean, the fact that they haven't signed him immediately shows that they see some flashes, they see some potential in this linebacker group, and we'll see. And again, at the end of the day, as long as we have 3 solid linebackers, we're good, because it's only going to be 2 of them on the field most of the time anyway. I think there may be an even more percentage of snaps where we have 2 linebackers this year than last year. I think they truly believe in like a Buffalo nickel slot corner position even more this coming season than they did last season. So we'll see. Again, I just don't think the linebacker group is that big of a worry. And again, we have a contingency plan in Anthony Barr just in case if it gets out of hand. And then that's technically all 7 of my biggest storylines, but I did want to talk about the tight end room just real quick before we get up out of here. First of all, again, Logan Thomas is hurt, so we got to see who's going to step up. I mean, you have John Bates, you have Cole Turner, you also have Samus Reyes, the athletic freak. You have Curtis Hodges, one of the tallest players on our team, that before he got hurt, they were saying he looked better than Cole Turner in practices already. You have my boy Armani Rogers, one of the most athletic guys to even come out of this entire draft class, undrafted free agent, or even guys that got drafted. He literally has a Chase Claypool at receiver or a Darren Waller at tight end type of potential. I mean, he's just that much of an athletic freak. He's just buried deep within our depth chart. I hope he at least makes the practice squad, because I can definitely see another team picking him up and him ended up balling out. I mean, the same feeling I had with Jordan Mailata for the Eagles when he was super raw coming from rugby. I have that same exact feeling about Armani Rogers. So we'll see how that goes. I'm really excited about this tight end group. As of right now, it's loads of potential, but no floor. John Bates has a certain floor. Cole Turner we'll see as a 5th round rookie, has a floor to a certain extent, but we don't have any, like, we know what we got in the tight end room right now, especially with Logan Thomas hurt. But if we're talking about potential, this is one of the most exciting position groups out of our entire team. If we're talking about pure athleticism, high ceiling, boom or bust candidates, all type of stuff. I mean, you cannot forget about Sammis Reyes, who coaches rave about being the most physical blocker on our team. Not even just in the tight end room, but that's including offensive linemen as well. As far as physicality, Sammis Reyes is our most physical blocker. Once he gets the technique down, it's over with. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about the 7.5 biggest Commanders training camp storylines to look forward to. Let me know how you feel about this roster. Are you excited? Do you think the rookies are ready to step up week 1? Do you think the injuries are really going to hurt us early in the season? All that type of stuff. So definitely get in the comment section. Leave a like on the video if you liked it, if you learned anything. And man, I really appreciate y'all. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Man, I really appreciate y'all. Catch y'all later. I'm out.